Marc Raimondi for ESPN, joined today by Iron Michael Chandler. Mike, good to see you. Good to talk to you. You have some things that you want to chat about. I have some things that I want to ask you. But first, I want to ask you about this new partnership you have with Hiatus Tequila. I feel like tequila is a pretty hot thing right now, especially in the combat sports space. And you have your partner. Now, tell me a little bit about this.
Yeah, I've tequila has been my drink of choice for as long as I can remember. I've had some really bad ones, had some decent ones, and had some really good ones. And as you kind of get into it and start peeling back the layers and the different flavor profiles, I kind of became a little bit of a tequila connoisseur, if you will. But I got introduced to Hiatus Tequila by a friend of mine, and then loved the actual tequila itself. I loved the branding. I loved the ethos behind what they stand for. After you do a little bit of research, our founder, Chris DeSoto, why he created Hiatus Tequila, the branding, the actual name of the tequila, taking a hiatus. Obviously, Marc, you've covered my career for a pretty long time. I'm known as a guy who's a pretty darn intense, hard worker, but without those moments of rest, those moments of hiatus, I can't do what I do. So, so I actually reached out, and after one conversation with our founder, Chris DeSoto, I knew I wanted to be involved, and not just be involved as a face or a brand ambassador or endorser, if you will. I wanted to be in the business. So making an investment in the company and now coming on board and being a guy who's boots on the ground with the mission of taking Hiatus Tequila around the world and getting in as many glasses as possible. So that's our mission, and that's what we're doing.
So it actually is partly your company. You're an investor. You're a part owner.
Yeah, I mean, and if you know me, obviously I do things outside of the cage. I've been very blessed with a lot of great people around me, and done a pretty good job of managing my fight career to give me the ability to make investments in numerous companies and make different investments that are going to set me up for that day when we finally do our exit interview from this sport. Right, we're finally going to have that one where we're like, hey, Marc, I'm done, man. I can't do it anymore. Right, because that day is going to come eventually, and I've always thought about having myself set up. So I'm no stranger to making investments in certain companies, brands, products, or real estate, whatever it might be, if I truly believe in the mission behind the brand or the product or the service or the investment itself. And Chris DeSoto and Hiatus fit that bill, and now here we are.
You mentioned having good people around you and a good team, and I feel like your manager, Dave Martin, is a guy that doesn't do a lot of press, doesn't get a lot of publicity, but I feel like he's one of the better guys. If you talk to his clients, he's really one of the better managers in the sport.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, man. These days, right, the number of clicks and follows and platform and all that kind of stuff, it gets so cattywampus, right? I believe Dave Martin is the greatest mixed martial arts manager on the planet. He wouldn't tell you that. He would never admit that. He doesn't hop on your show, or he doesn't hop on Twitter and social media and tell everybody and trash talk other fighters and get himself in the headlines, right? But when it comes to actually loving and caring about his guys, really creating a brotherhood, Ryan Bader and I aren't in the same weight class, but Gilbert Burns now, and I mean, Robbie Lawler, Logan Storr, like we have this group of guys that have been together for so long that we feel like we're teammates. Me and Ryan Bader have never really trained together, maybe one training camp, but we feel like we're teammates because we're in our management team, if you will. So it's really, really awesome. I talked to Dave about everything. I talked to Dave about Hiatus before we really got into everything. Talked to him about Cram and talked about all these other business ventures that I'm working on. Cause you can't grow without people, and you have to have the right checks and balances and layers of vetting process to really make sure you don't get burned.
You mentioned Gilbert Burns. Did he move over to work with Dave?
I believe I know they have a good working relationship. I don't quite know if he actually represents them. I know he's coming out to Vegas to hang out with us. I don't know if that's just because we all train at the same gym down in Florida. So I actually might have misspoke there, but I would like that. I would like that if we could, because I'm Dave's biggest fan too, man. I'm always telling everybody, hey man, you got a manager? You need to sign with this Dave Martin guy, dude. Trust me, because it's not just about getting you fights. It's about how long can your career be? How do we set you up from day one all the way till 15 years now, where I am, and pretty darn happy with the way my career has turned out thus far, and we still got a lot of tread left on the tires.
Yeah, let me ask you about that, because there is a fight that is highly anticipated, right? And people are saying maybe UFC 300, or we don't know when it's going to be, but Michael Chandler versus Conor McGregor is kind of the fight that everyone is looking at for 2024. Any updates on the progress there?
No updates aside from the fact that we are moving in the right direction. The fact that Conor is out there training, he is posting new training footage of him being in the gym, not just on the yacht, kind of, training with some 3-pound dumbbells. He's actually in the gym. He's back in the gritty training gyms that we want to see him in. So that's all exciting news. I'm just like you guys watching the whole thing from afar. One day he wants to get in politics. The next day he's having a baby. The next day he's, sparring. So it's good. It's good to see. I wish him nothing but the best, and congratulations to him and Dee on their 4th child. Obviously that's a huge milestone in someone's life. So that could be a part of the reason why the fight is getting pushed back further than we thought. Obviously we wanted to fight right after Tough. That didn't work out. Then by the end of this year, sometime this month in December, never happened. But the fight's definitely happening in early to, mid 2024. And UFC 300 would be awesome. I haven't been told that, but it sure would be awesome. That's the one everyone's gunning for. You talk to fighters every day. That's the fight that everybody wants to be on. That's the fight card, a milestone card that everyone wants to be on. And who better to headline it than Conor and the greatest comeback in combat sports history versus the most exciting guy on the planet?
What is your strategy right now? Do you reach out to the UFC once in a while? It's a Hunter or Dana or someone like that, Sean or Mick, and ask them every couple of weeks, what's going on? Are you waiting for them to come to you? How are you kind of approaching this?
Man, it's a good question. I believe I am where I am and have the good graces of when I was in Bellator all the way till now being in the UFC, because I operate the way that I like to operate. When I get an answer and have a phone call with Hunter and he gives me an answer and tells me to wait, or he tells me, hey, we're targeting possibly this timeline, possibly, don't hold us to it, but this is what we're thinking. I'm not going to call him a week later and be like, hey, any updates? Call him a week later. Hey, any updates? I could call Dana and I could call Hunter, and they always answer. And we have a great working relationship because I have brought them a ton of value with me signing with the UFC and the fights that I put on and the passion that I have with how I conduct myself in and outside of the cage. So I've earned that right, but I also keep myself busy with other things. That's why we're talking about hiatus. That's why we talk about the other investments and these other things I'm doing outside of the cage. And, do I really, am I really chomping at the bit? Of course I am, but I sure am enjoying every single day time with my family, every single day with my wife, taking my wife on dates, going on trips with my family, working on passion projects outside of just the fight business. So, I could call and they could answer, but they're going to give me the same answer. Hey, hold your horses. I promise it's happening. Tell Marc Raimondi it's happening. But we just don't have a date yet.
Do you have a personal deadline? Hey, if I don't know anything by X date, I'm going to move on and take another fight, or what do you think?
That's a good question. No. And I've thought about this. But no, I don't have a personal, hard date. When we get into the first of the year, if we don't get some things moving, really, obviously we got to really start hard press, if you will, full court press. Hey, let's figure this thing out. But right now I'm enjoying it. Obviously, UFC 300 is still 4 or 5 months away. It sounds like it's going to be April, because obviously 299 is in March. Doesn't take a genius to put that 2 and 2 together. So we got time if that's going to be the date. I haven't been told that is, but obviously all the other main events have been set for January, February, and March. So, yeah, man, we're enjoying the time right now. But no personal deadline. But check back with me in January, and I might be singing a different tune.
I got to ask you about this, because it was such a surprise, I guess a couple months ago already, about USADA, because the whole thing that we were all waiting for, you included, probably you especially, was when is McGregor going to get back into the USADA drug testing pool, right? So USADA sends out this statement, I think it was the end of October, and it says, McGregor's back in the pool. Oh, by the way, we're leaving, the UFC is leaving us. We're not going to be partners anymore, and it's because of Conor McGregor. It was a crazy statement. Hunter Campbell did a press conference, and Jeff Novitzky did a press conference the next day in Las Vegas. I flew there for that press conference, and you're kind of in weirdly in the limbo of this, right? What did you think of that whole situation?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I can tell you every conversation that I ever had with UFC, it was always adamant. Hey, people are talking about exemptions, and they're talking about 2 clean tests, and they're talking about this. Conor McGregor has to be in the USADA drug testing pool for 6 months. Everybody was adamant about that. I never heard any other whisperings about any kind of exemption or any of that kind of stuff. So if you looked at the timeline, obviously October, would have set us up for 6 months later, whenever that would be. But yeah, I mean, it was obviously interesting timing, and it was a big media hoopla, but you were at the press conference. I listened to the entire press conference. There was not always, but there was a little bit of rub, obviously, between the way USADA conducted things and the way the UFC just wanted more, especially out of our app that we had, the whereabouts, all these different things that they wanted to see more streamlined and easier to do, because that is one of the toughest things about, we want it to be a clean sport, but you want it to be also kind of easy and realistic as well. So, tomorrow when I drive up to Indiana, I'm going to have to make sure I got my whereabouts and all those different things. And I can tell you they've rolled out kind of the preliminary stuff with the new drug testing protocol stuff as far as getting stuff together. And I believe it's a much better program. It's much easier to use, much more user-friendly, less invasive as far as all the different stuff you got to do. But so we're still going to have a clean sport. It's still going to be, everyone's still going to be held accountable. It's just going to be through a different drug testing organization. But Conor getting back in the pool when he, quote unquote, didn't have to, if he wasn't going to come back, like everybody said, obviously that at least put those rumors to rest, because you don't get back in the USADA pool if you're not actually going to come back. And obviously now we're seeing him training, and he's looking like he's in shape and he's looking good. So that's all good and music to my ears.
You have any questions or concerns about that whole situation with him? Because, I mean, the way that USADA kind of painted that situation, it almost kind of implied that he was doing something improper.
No, I mean, it's a tough, man. It's all of that is very, very tough. And I candidly have had conversations with them as well. It's like, hey, I want to be, information is key, right? We know there's certain things that we can't take. We know there's certain things that are banned substances. We know there's certain things that are just downright 100% cheating. You can ask a 7-year-old and be like, hey, should you be allowed to take steroids? They're going to say absolutely not, right? But there's so many of these different things, from supplementation to natural remedies and all of these different things that are probably phenomenal for our longevity, our brain, our immune system, our nervous system, all of these different things that are just blanket statement. No, sorry, you can't take anything. So the only thing we know we can take is NSF certified multivitamins and protein shakes, but at some point when you put your body through the rigors that we put our bodies through, when you want to perform at the level that we want to perform at and recover and all these different things, man, it's a crazy gray, muddy water area where it's like, hey man, I'm just trying to be able to play soccer with my kids 20 years from now. I'm not trying to look all jacked and be a steroid freak, right? But I do want to be a healthy individual. So it's an interesting topic, and I like to be informed. And I will be talking to Jeff Novitzka. Hey, let's put out what kind of protocol is 100% legal. That's 100% transparent. Let's do it, and every fighter should be able to do that, and we will.
Last thing, man. I know you got to run. I know you're a little bit far removed from your life as a Bellator fighter, but you look at that promotion and you're all over it, right? You were one of the franchise guys there for so long, and PFL just bought it. Bellator is pretty much coming to an end as far as we knew it. How do you feel about that? Any emotions, bittersweet? What do you think, and what do you think about the future under PFL?
Yeah, it's bittersweet because, just like talking about Christopher DeSoto and the product of a hiatus, right? Like the product of hiatus, it's a good product, but it was the people behind it why I wanted to invest and get involved, right? Bellator as a product, good product, but it was the people behind Bellator that I absolutely loved, man. Coker and John Slusser and Kevin Kay and Mel Sherman and Frank Tanky, and these names that maybe not a lot of people know, but they were important to me. These were men and women who were a part of my life for a decade. So I had a lot of text messages and phone calls with these people, and it was bittersweet, and it was it's interesting to see what happens moving forward. But like I said, you got a product, but it's the people behind it. You got Bellator, the product, but it was the people behind it. And I wish them all the best. And I wish all the Bellator fighters and PFL fighters the best, because ultimately a rising tide raises all ships. And we want to see the sport of mixed martial arts flourish. Obviously the UFC is and will remain for a very long time the worldwide leader in it, but it's cool to see PFL doing what they're doing. And it's cool to see kind of that merger happen. So we'll see what happens.
It's kind of crazy how the perception changes for someone like you who, like we talked about, I've covered your career. I covered your career in Bellator for a long time, and you were one of the best fighters in the world in Bellator. And maybe people didn't know that until you got to the UFC, and now you get all this attention. Now you might get the Conor McGregor fight. It's just a crazy like night and day difference where you weren't getting the love when you were in Bellator, and now it seems like rightfully so you are.
Yeah, no, and it's true. And people can hate on to the UFC all they want, and people can talk about I don't get paid enough this or I don't get paid enough that. But man, the platform that we are given, it's your fault as a athlete fighting under the UFC banner if you can't monetize the platform that you are given. If you cannot megaphone the voice that you have been given. So obviously you see me doing that. That's why we were on this call today talking about hiatus and all these different investments and platform that I've been given. And if you keep a good reputation, you keep your nose down, you stay out of the negative headlines, you do something good with the talents that you were given, and then you have a huge platform that the UFC gives you. I'm a perfect litmus test for that, right? I did think I was one of the best guys in the world, but I was just fighting at a place that wasn't giving me that extra oomph behind me. Man, so it's been an awesome ride thus far. And no, I don't think I might get the Conor fight. I am getting the Conor fight, and we are going to fight, and I am going to knock him out in the first 2 rounds. And we'll see. Hopefully we get a fight announcement soon in January.
Good way to cap it off, Michael. Always great talking to you. I really appreciate it, man.
You're the man, Marc. I appreciate you, brother.